By now, we're well aware of the the, the genuine horror of life for African Americans in the Jim Crow South during this period, and um, the 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 far from perfect and still quite painful life of black folk, even in the North. One of the leading voices for improving the lives of African American people in this period is the man you're looking at here. This is Mr. Booker T. Washington, who was born into slavery and became a leading voice for improving both race relations and the lived experience of black people in the United States. I encourage you to read the section on Booker T. Washington in section 21.3 of the OpenStax textbook. His method that he recommended to improve people's lives, known as the Atlanta Compromise. He said that instead of worrying about changing the laws and changing official policies and having civil rights acknowledged from governmental organizations, what African American folks should do is focus on self-improvement, on education, on stable family structures, on bettering themselves and getting along well with everybody, in the hopes that, and I don't mean this in a cynical fashion. You know, people will oppose him for sure, but I think in his case, in an honest hope that that the rest will take care of itself, that the rest of society will come around if his own demographic sees to their own house. So read about Washington in the OpenStax text, section 21.3, and you can find out more about Mr. Washington and even listen to his famous Atlanta Compromise speech if you consult this thing in section 21.2. I want in the video, though, to focus on someone who was an opponent, not an enemy, but an opponent of Mr. Washington's approach. W.E.B. Du Bois, the author of the extraordinary text "The Soul of Black Folk," which I had the privilege of reading in undergrad. W.E.B. Du Bois, and that is how he pronounced it. So it's not Du Bois, it's Du Bois in the case of him and his family. He was a professor at the all black Atlanta University, and the first African American to earn a doctorate from Harvard. And he emerged as the most prominent spokesman for what would later be called the Niagara Movement, named for a meeting that he convened of civil rights leaders in 1905 on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. Why? Why go to Canada? Well, because segregation laws didn't prevent them from hotel accommodations. So much of the road to civil rights for African U.S. Americans, much of that road had to be paved in Canada because these great men, this Harvard-educated university professor, couldn't stay at a hotel in the United States of America. But by 1905, he'd grown skeptical of Booker T. Washington's calls for African Americans to accommodate white racism. That was his interpretation of the Atlanta Compromise and focused solely on self-improvement. Du Bois and those alongside him wished to carve a more direct path toward equality, to take matters in their own hands, to use activism, demonstration, political leadership, litigation skills of the black educated elite, and who he called the talented 10th, not wait for change to come, but to make change. And here's a photo of the leaders of the Niagara movement with Niagara Falls there in the background. Du Bois led the others in drafting the Declaration of Principles, which called for the immediate political, economic, and social equality for African Americans. No more waiting. Why wait? They've been waiting since 1619. These rights included universal suffrage, voting rights. Constitution had given them voting rights, but in the South, they couldn't access their own rights because of the oppressive Jim Crow policies, universal suffrage, compulsory education, get the kids in school. Because look, there is the most straight path to any human being in any time or place to bettering his or her life is education. Ideas precede action. All right, and good ideas rooted in knowledge, precede good actions. And there is no path to knowledge other than learning. And what better path is there to learning than education? The elimination of the convict lease system. So check this out. I'm coming down, not exactly courageously, but firmly against this. We got rid of slavery, 45 years ago, 50 years ago at this point. Listen to the convict lease system. Tens of thousands of black people had endured slavery-like conditions in southern road construction, mines, prisons, and penal farms since the end of Reconstruction. Slap a pair of handcuffs on a guy, stick him in jail for any real or perceived offense, and then lease the convicts out for unpaid labor. What's that sound like to you? Rhymes with schmavery. For more on Du Bois and his important and influential work, check out the next video.